Crazy God Story. This is how I quit trying to do Christianity. I grew up in what I call schizophrenic Christianity, and I call it that because it was crazy. Sometimes we were hyper-religious, sometimes we weren't religious at all. We went to church on and off, and when we were there, my family was really good at convincing other Christians that we were the perfect Christian family, but it was all an act. If someone had gone to my home, they would have called CPS on us. As a kid, I always wanted God in my life, but nobody ever showed me what it looked like to be an authentic follower of Jesus. When I was 18, I asked my mom why I should believe what she believed, and she didn't have an answer because it wasn't genuine for her. I was the kid that got saved at summer camp every year, and I would go home and trying really hard to be a good Christian boy, and I'd do great at it for a while, but eventually I would fall into sin and fall away from God. And then at some point, I'd rededicate my life to God, and I'd do good for another minute, but then I'd fall back into sin, and no matter how hard I tried, I just couldn't break that cycle. When I moved out of my parents' house, I kept doing the same version of Christianity I learned growing up, and I made a huge mess out of my life. Eventually, I got married and had kids, but I was a terrible husband and father. I was also a liar and a thief and almost ended up in prison. I hated the way that I was, and for years and years and years, I kept trying to change, but I kept doing the same thing I did as a kid growing up. Tried really, really hard. I did all the things I saw other Christians doing. I would read my Bible, I'd go to church, I'd get involved in serving, things like that, but it just never worked no matter how hard I tried to make it work. Then one day in December of 2008, I was home alone and I cried out to God. And for the first time, I genuinely put my faith in Jesus to save me from my sin and surrendered my life to God. There had been a bunch of times before that where I told God I was putting my faith in Jesus and surrendering my life to Him, but this was the first time where it was ever genuine. When I did that, it was like God reached into my soul, took the DNA of who I was, and transformed it. I became a radically different person in an instant. All of a sudden, all the things that I couldn't quit doing no matter how hard I tried, I was freed from. I didn't have to do those things anymore, and I still don't to this day. For 30 years, I've been trying to do Christianity, but failed at it miserably. Since that day, living by faith and following Jesus has been as natural for me as breathing. Not only did I become a good husband and a good father, but God led me to start a nonprofit mechanic company where my full-time job was fixing cars for broke people for free without ever charging anyone for anything I did. My life became unexplainable apart from God. What He's called me to do now is to strengthen other believers. If what I've said resonated with you and you want to know more about my story or how to get to a place in your life where living by faith and following Jesus is as natural as breathing, download a free PDF copy of my book at crazygodstory.com.